People of the world, welcome to Marketing as a Foreign Language, episode 308. My name is Kellen Kautzman, and I own Send It Rising Internet Marketing out of Las Vegas. WordPress, SEO, pay-per-click, Google Ads, LinkedIn Ads, Facebook Ads. You know the drill, graphic design, TikTok consulting. Oh, man. Shalise Super, one of our team members, got 1 million views on TikTok not too long ago. She taught Marcus Berg, another one of our clients, how to do social media the right way. He got 130,000 impressions on an Instagram post a couple weeks back, over 1,300 likes. Good times. Today we're talking about selling in the Zoom age and the anxiety, stress that goes into evolving into this new space. And I will let you know firsthand that I have not done an excellent job in the transition. I will be very honest with you. When the pandemic started, I was literally the president of my local Business Networking International, that's BNI chapter. If you're unfamiliar, imagine one person from each representative business, so dentist, personal injury attorney, probate attorney, real estate agent, insurance broker, small business owner, this sort of thing, in a room meeting once per week. Our chapter is a lunch chapter. So I was standing in front of this room of like 25, 26 people leading this meeting. A lot of fun energy, making jokes, having a good time. That to me was a great way to drive revenue. Most of the revenue of my company comes from my BNI chapter. It is somehow related to those relationships. Now, I am a B2B, I'm business to business. So for me, being in front of business owners is the way to go. That's where I should be. If I were selling hamburgers, obviously I would have a much different strategy. So when BNI went online, we were thinking 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Obviously, we all know how that turned out. There are people that instantly realized, just like the jump in Zoom stock, that online networking was going to be where it's at. Now, there are a number of ways you can do that. There are local chambers of commerce where you can do speed networking. And I was resistant. So I kept with my BNI chapter. We went online, but the value of the chapter, in my experience, declined. There is something about the in-person meeting with folks. Retention is much higher when you're literally physically meeting. And ultimately, BNI, I think, there's a magic to it when you're in the room and visiting other chapters and shaking hands and doing all that stuff. So anyway, so BNI goes virtual, and I knew that online networking would be the path. Now, it wasn't until recently that I got involved with a few things. The first is Hello Neighbor, not Hello Neighbor, that Friendly Neighbor. I don't even know what it's called. And then Blitzer. Blitzer's the other big one. If you're unfamiliar, Blitzer is a great platform where all throughout the day there's speed networking. And I thought that I could just Google speed networking and find 1 million different options. And I was in for a rude awakening with that one. Because while there are certain events, many are paid, many are gated. And it was more difficult than I thought to fill my calendar with networking events. And in my experience, networking by and large goes in the following way. It's just like fishing. Someone pops on my screen. It's a Melaleuca representative, right? Melaleuca's great. Great. Happy for you. I'm not interested. And I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes with this person basically sort of talking about something. Now, she may know someone who needs a website. She may need a website herself for some other project, but for Melaleuca, she doesn't. So she's looking at me as a potential client. I'm looking at her as a potential referral source. And the subtext is there's probably nothing that's going to happen here. And so it's like, so you just chat with someone, and so that's one level. That's one level of viewing the interaction. And while that's true, what is also simultaneously happening is that two souls are meeting. And you can take that moment and go, how's life? How are you? What's going on? And you can have positive human interactions. Now, my experience has been that I have to have multiple touches with the person before I am going to see any kind of money, any kind of revenue. Multiple touches. Like I need to talk to them 5 times, 10 times, 15 times. This is pretty normal stuff. And so with these speed networking events, usually it's you have the initial conversation with that person, and then you figure out whether or not it's worth investing into a one-to-one. For me, I do 30 minutes. That's plenty of time. If we want to do another one, great. And then all of these things sync with Calendly, which I was very opposed to for a long time. I just didn't want my calendar to be open to anyone to book at any time. I was resistant to the idea. Finally buckled and went, you know what? If I'm going to be networking, this is how we got to do it. People used to have a Rolodex. That's another area that I fall short on. I know a ton of people, but I mean, there's so much overlap, like the number of realtors that I know, but you can only really refer to one or two. Do you see what I'm saying? So when I meet another Mary Kay consultant, I think, okay, and she's looking at me too, like you're the sixth web developer that I've met this week. So, I mean, what really is going on here? And so navigating that kind of awkward space of, hi, this probably isn't going to turn into money for either of us, but it could. And then if you have that attitude, now you're entering these conversations with sort of a whatever kind of feel to it. And so the other thing is if you walk into every conversation and you're instantly ready to refer that person to your network is going to get exhausted by you constantly. I mean, it's spamming them basically like, hey, let me introduce you to this Mary Kay consultant. Hey, let me introduce you to this realtor. Hey, let me introduce you to this person. And they feel obligated to talk to that person when that person is just going to pitch them. So being selective about who you let in is tough because on the other side, they're doing that too. They're looking at you going, I don't know you. I don't know your track record. I mean, especially with marketing, if you refer a bad marketing person to your network or someone that you love or someone you care about, your cousin, your brother, your whatever, and they do poorly, that reflects on you. So marketing referrals are, they're a big deal. And when you get a warm referral, at least in my business, it's beautiful because that person trusts you already, and earning a ton of trust is the big deal. So based on the ticket item, these speed networking events have varying degrees of efficaciousness, if that's a word. So if you are a local business, so let's take a plumber as an example. Obviously you have a radius and that's it. So your networking has to be done hyper locally. So local chambers of commerce are probably good places to do that. But the amount of people that you can talk to is much less. And you might think, oh, that's a bummer. If I had a national brand, I could network nationally. I could talk to anybody. But what you'll find is because Zoom has changed the game so much, everyone's doing that. So I am always talking to an insurance agent that can take a business in all 50 states, or the next person who pops up is national and they're all national. And so the number of people that are networking online nationally has gone up a lot. And so really the takeaway that it's dawning on me is, look, I got to hone in on one-to-ones and I have to establish relationships and keep those relationships going. Now, the show, Marketing is a Foreign Language, that you are currently listening to, thank you so much. I love you and I'm proud of you. Is a way to have guests on, have them back, have the guest back, have the guest back. And then, the fourth time they've been on the show, when they talk to, someone like, oh yeah, Kellen I know he's a good web developer. I know he's a good SEO. I know he's a good internet marketer because I trust him, and so developing that trust is really the name of the game. And that happens organically over time. Now, theoretically, this podcast would do that, and hopefully it will over time. We'll see. But we push forward. So if you are, let's say, I'll use like a Mary Kay, for example, And I mean, national networking makes sense for you. I mean, every person that pulls up is a potential client for you. um, Scheduling one-to-ones makes sense for you, and you can just do that grind. Just realizing that, I mean, this is just true sales 101. I mean, just your attitude, your ability to endure, to endure. that's, that's a little that's a little dramatic, but just imagine doing 5 6 Zoom networking things a day. You just go from thing to thing to thing to thing, and you've got your spreadsheet of potential clients, and you just meet other human beings. Now, there's a part of you that's just going to want to have fun. You know, sometimes there's an old sales adage that says, make a sale or make a friend. And many times, if someone is super friendly, they're not buying from you. And the reason is, if they are the decision maker, they are about to part ways with money. Now, if you're selling something very cheap, it's not that big of a deal, but obviously the volume has to be much higher. But if you're selling something like I'm selling, like 900 a month, 1100 a month, $3,500 website, $5,000 website, um, I mean, they're not, nobody, I mean, nobody, that's not true, but people don't want to be spending that money. Now, if they're saving money, sure. They're like, how much is it? You say 1100, they're paying 1500, you're giving them more. They're like, yay, you know, but that's usually not the case. Usually folks are not interested in parting with that money. And so in my experience, it's more of a somber sort of, you know, and then you bring the energy. It's like, we're excited to start. Let's go. You know, this team's amazing. We really appreciate it, but make it short and sweet, close the deal and move on. Because that moment where they're spending the money it's, you know, it hurts a little bit, you know. The picking out the stuff at Walmart is a lot more fun than the total, you know, that you have to consume. You have to look at that number that you just spent, Amazon or whatever. So networking continues, and the next person pops up on your screen, and you know it's not a good lead for you. And so you have the conversation. 5 minutes goes by, another person pops up, another person who's not a good lead for you. And a lot of these folks are gonna, you know, they may see you as a potential sale, and so they're gonna want to schedule a one-to-one with you. And so you can fill up your calendar with people who are selling you all day. This is the crazy thing about modern speed networking, which is, you know, if you're not careful, you'll just spend all your time being sold to, right? Like, hey, what do I have on my calendar for today? Oh, someone who's selling, you know, this multi-level marketing thing. And oh, here's LegalZoom. And all these people they want your money, you know? And that's exhausting, because now you've got a 30-minute call with someone who isn't really interested in, but you can turn that, you can do your business foo on that one. So say, for example, I'm talking to someone from LegalZoom. I can say to them, you know what, I'm interested in the product, but you know, I want revenue to justify it. If you can get me a website, if you can refer me to 3 people, right? And then, you know, if one of them closes, we'll move forward. I mean, who do you know that could use internet marketing? And then you play that game, you know, where you work together towards a common cause. Now, there are organizations like BNI where these sorts of things, you can't do it. I mean, it's against the rules. They don't want any sort of referral deals. People do it, obviously, because people are human, and BNI is not some sort of like autocratic, you know, it doesn't take away free will. But it's against the rules. You know, if you're in BNI, you're supposed to just give the referral, and that's that. Um, Now, these other speed networking events, they don't care at all. There's no rules at all. It's just is what it is. So like a blitzer or that sort of thing. Um, so there's set and setting. And I've made that mistake before, because I forgot which speed networking thing I was in. And I said something about like, oh yeah, we do 20% this and that. And the guy just froze and was like, well, that's against the terms of service. And he went off on a whole thing. I'm like, I'm sorry, I forgot. It's whatever. But yeah, so flexing your ability to interact with other people, to love other people. That's the other thing too, is, I mean, you can run around missing deals all day long because you instantly size up the person you're talking to. I mean, the person you're talking to might have someone who needs a website right now, or needs, you know, whatever it is that you're selling right now. It's not them, it's someone they know. And so you maybe sort of start the conversation off weak, and you don't show them any respect, and obviously they're not going to refer you to anybody that way. So having a sort of barometer of your energy level is important. Are you fading? Sometimes being honest, where someone's like, "Hey, how's it going?" You're like, "Oh, I'm exhausted." That can be a good conversation starter too. Being honest, right? So instead of trying to fake it, fake smile, that sort of thing. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day, and her teeth, all her pearly whites were showing, but when you look in the eyes, you can tell if someone's actually smiling. And she smiled like the whole time. And I'll be honest with you, it was a bit sort of awkward. You ever talked to someone like that where they're obviously not happy and they're like, okay, and they're just giving you the big smile, and you know that they're not happy, and that's a rough one. So having these sorts of social interactions over and over and over again is that's just Zoom networking for you. And then the spreadsheet just grows and grows and grows with potentials. And I get it, it's sales 101, but at least in my world, it's number of proposals going out, quantity of closed business, etc. So if you're listening to this and you are interested in being a guest on the show and chatting with me, by all means, send me an email, info at senditrising.com would be a good way to do that. If you're interested in chatting with me or with someone on the staff, you can give us a ring as well. Senditrising.com for all of our information. A lot of folks are listening to us on the podcast. So if you are driving, if you're listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, that sort of thing, hey, we really appreciate it. If you have any questions about networking, or if you're curious about which groups you can join, what's working for me, if you want to have a conversation about networking, by all means, happy to have that conversation with you. Again, info at senditrising.com. Final words on the networking is I will say that from a B2B perspective, it's just the new thing. I mean, I think we were all sort of under the impression that this was going to end a lot. Well, maybe not all of us, but many of us, I certainly was, especially with the Delta variant. I remember when the masks came off, excuse me. I felt like, okay, good. We got a handle on this thing, and then it ramped right back up. So it looks like it's Zoom for the foreseeable future, Google Hangouts, etc. I will mention one more thing. I was turned on to Twitter Spaces not too long ago, which is sort of like the Clubhouse of Twitter. Is an interesting sort of idea if you want to be a thought leader, or if you just want to hop in to a space. You can request to become a speaker. It's a great way to gain followers. And grow your numbers on Twitter. So check out Twitter Spaces for networking as well. And when it comes to speed networking and that sort of thing, I think it's here to stay. Don't think it's going anywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the show for today. I appreciate y'all swinging by. We'll see you next time.